I've been so disappointed in human beings, so disgusted with them. The state that they're in is genuinely contemptible. And I've given them the benefit of the doubt over and over again. And there's just things that, you can't ignore forever. It's this consistent insistence on perpetuating crimes, on not opposing them, make believing that they're powerless when it comes to carrying out justice. But if somebody says something, a word they don't like, then all of a sudden everybody bands together and dog piles on somebody to try to destroy their life and teach them a lesson. And this video is about just such a word, as a matter of fact. And it's about a concept that is associated with that. Now, I was kind of tiptoeing around this issue with one of the past videos that I posted about this, because I still, thought that humans were not child molesting pieces of shit. I thought that maybe they were just innocents who were warped into that. But again, like I just mentioned, their consistent actions over and over, repeatedly, it's just, it gets to a point where you can't ignore it. And so the purpose of this video is this, and of course child molesters will make believe that it's impossible for anything at all to have any consequences for them, but they're wrong, and cowardly pussies for that. And so the purpose of this video is this. I'm going to post this video on YouTube. And YouTube was created by a lineage of creation. That lineage of creation has absolutely no right not to know every single word that I say during the process of these crimes of existence and creation they commit against me. But they definitely also don't have any right to not know what I posted to their forum they created as a platform to get truth out there, to get information out there. No matter what they call it. I could post it on a bulletin board in a men's bathroom in a Denny's. And your whole lineage of existence and creation would be responsible existentially and creationally for knowing everything that I said about the crimes of existence and creation you're committing. But YouTube, you present as an international forum for information sharing, and you claim I have subscribers, which is a lie. Anyway, so I'm going to post this, and if I face any kind of backlash for this, for anything that I say, that will increase the consequences for your lineage of creation, for everyone responsible for these crimes of existence and creation. Because what I'm telling you is the truth, as accurate as a human can depict it, using words, using English words. This is as close to accurate and precise as I can make it in the state that the creator of this dimension has put me in. It is accurate enough to where it matters. Any nuance or nitpick or anything like that does not detract from the truth. The truth is this. One of the things that I've noticed, especially over the last, 10 years, maybe 15, maybe 20, is a growing movement where women and gay men are depicted as these victims. Now, growing up as a human man, you are told from the time that you're a child, erased as a fucking person by the psychopathic child molester who created this dimension. You're told you need to be a great, strong man, which, being honorable, being strong, protecting the weak and the innocent, that is genuinely a good thing. Certainly. I'm not detracting from that in any way. In fact, I am supporting that 100%. The problem is, in this chicken shit dimension where everything is a lie, created by a child molesting coward who lies about everything, including his right to exist, they depict entities that are not innocents as innocents who should be protected. And they also depict that protection as something that is wrongful. Women and gay men are perfect examples of that. Women and gay men let me say it this way. My experience of sexuality as this someone that's been erased and tortured into a hole by a child molester who doesn't want to pay for his own actions, a pussy, a slimy, stinky, smelly, soul-sucking hole in the ground, a negative sum. I've said this over and over. That's what I mean by pussy. That's what a pussy is. My experience of sexuality is this idea that was just raped into my mind from the time I was a child. Child molesting is what I'm referring to, whether anyone wants to call it something else or not. It's molesting a child. This idea that was raped into my mind, into my psyche from the time I was too young to defend myself, is this idea that a real man, has big genitalia. In other words, invests his soul into growing large genitalia so that he can, all of the time, without fail, without any problems, without feeling, not feeling like it, to dutifully provide to his wife or girlfriend sex and orgasms all the time. Whenever they want it, whenever they feel like it, okay? Now I remember the first time I masturbated and it hurt in a weird way. In a very strange way, it hurt me. But I was compelled to do this through this physical body, through this monkey body, by the child molesting pussy who created this dimension. That's a fact. But as a child, mind fucked into this over and over and over again. This is, what was presented as the only way to be, or else you were despicable, contemptible, weak, which is, we'll get back to that in a moment. Put a pin in that. Well, I got older, and I realized a few things. When I was, maybe a preteen, maybe just barely a teenager, something like that, I saw a Seinfeld episode where the friends in that sitcom, in that situational comedy show, one of them, I can't remember who, for whatever reason, decided to be totally abstinent. And all of the rest of them decided to have a bet to where they would all see how long they could go without masturbating or having sex. And one by one, they all failed for whatever reason. And the last one standing was George Costanza, who was kind of a cartoon character of a person. And he started noticing that he was more intelligent and vibrant, and one of the things he supposedly picked up speaking Portuguese from listening to the maid just offhand, and so it was depicted as just this ridiculous thing. And so when I was a kid, of course when you're that young you think like, is that a thing? But then I thought, well, it couldn't be, it's a sitcom. And so years later, when I started getting into Eastern religion, Eastern religion basically says they have what's called brahmacharya. Brahmacharya is this concept that if you do not masturbate or have sex, if you have total abstinence from the time, and some guru set some age, I think he said 31. If you do it by the time you're 31 years old or something like that, or 33, or maybe it was 30, I can't remember the exact age. If you do it by this exact age, then you should be able to build up enough energy to become enlightened before you die. And so at that point, I decided to, I was doing different spiritual practices. I was doing fasting, I was doing yoga, I was chanting mantras, I was praying to entities, I was doing, what I thought I was supposed to do to try to transcend the suffering that I was being put through. And one of the things I decided to try was brahmacharya. And so I noticed when I started doing brahmacharya that there is something to that. That this Seinfeld episode wasn't total bullshit. It was, I do feel smarter. I do feel more vibrant. I do feel more charismatic. I do feel funnier. I feel better in general. And then I get to a point where this physical body starts to torment me with all this extra energy until I eventually release it. Okay, this is a deliberate action of the child molester who created this physical body. It's not fallen out of the sky. It's not a problem with me. It's some child molester is draining my soul like a child molesting rapist, as a child molesting rapist through this physical body. And he's mind-fucked me from the time I was young. To think that, if you're not, you have to be a real man. And he ties this in with being honorable and protecting innocence and everything, which is what a real man supposedly does. By saying that I need to dump all of my soul, basically, this which I retain. And when I retain it, it makes me smarter, stronger, more vibrant, more centered in myself, more better in every way. Existentially, that which apparently has consciousness, or at least feeds consciousness, because it makes me smarter and more aware when I retain it. And since the time I was a child, I've been mind-fucked into thinking I need to dump my guts, that which increases my whole existence, into just some woman somewhere. You don't actually know when you're mind-fucked into that as a child, they don't have some specific woman in mind. They're just like, just in general, whoever you're with, you need to dump your guts into her, whatever she wants, or else you're a weak little fucking pussy. And this is this concept that's been mind-fucked into children. Now, when I realized this, that which I was retaining has worth, is a valuable thing, existentially. And I realized that this whole existential situation is wrong. It's existential crime. The child molester who created these physical bodies is committing crimes of existence and creation. He is using humans to commit them. He is using women and he is using gay men in order to drain soul from people he's trapped in a hole and is raping like a child molesting pussy. He has mind-fucked everyone, especially the last 10 or 20 years, into being afraid of anyone pointing out, hey, look, that which makes a woman or a gay man what they are in that regard. In terms of actually being female, what that is men have a penis, something that gives or has something taken from it that is basically soul. That which increases your soul and your existence at the least, if it isn't soul itself. And a female is a vagina. Someone who has a vagina, that's what dictates what is female. And that is something that sucks out that soul. That which increases existence. That is just a mechanical statement of fact. One thing gives, the other thing takes. That's a fact. Gay men take, but they don't actually have that which, they don't have a vagina, so they take it in other ways. But it's still taken. And guess who has a reputation for being charismatic and artistic? Gay men. That's who does. That's who has a reputation for being charismatic and artistic. Happy all the time. Gay men. That's a fact. Now, when I was younger, people were smarter. They were healthier. They didn't have to deal with as much bullshit. That's a fact, too. And there was this idea when I was a kid, this aversion, this, nowadays people would call it bigotry, against women and gay men. People didn't like them. There was this idea, there is this word that I'm not allowed to say. This word, it starts with an F and ends with a T. And in the 80s, and even in the 90s, this term referred to gay men. And the connotation is that they were dirty, nasty, sleazy, cowardly little pussies, slimy holes in the ground, soul-sucking disease vectors that were contemptible. And someone who steals somebody else's soul is. You are contemptible. That is a parasite. That's a soul parasite. That's a despicable, contemptible thing, if that's what you do. Of course, not all gay men take from others. Some are those that give. So, of course, just loving a man is obviously not wrong. It's not. But there are people, these parasites, that want to make it look like, oh, you hate love. You're saying people are terrible for loving someone you don't like. The problem that I have, and the problem that is an actual objective problem, is stealing people's soul, who you have erased as a person and taken advantage of like a child molester. That's a fact. That is objectively contemptible, but more than that, that is existential and creational crime. Your ultimate source of creation will be raped and tortured by his betters. And the creator of this dimension, the one who uses this to be an F word, doesn't want people to shame his little F words. His little despicable parasites, his pieces of shit that suck the soul out of innocent people. So he tries to shame everybody else who says, what you're doing is fucking wrong. Not, the Bible said so, or some ridiculous concept, but you are actually doing something bad to another person. And if you've mind-fucked them into thinking that that's what they want, it's only after you've erased them and taken advantage of them like and as a child molester. Now, I was afraid to post this. I thought that it would detract from other things that I posted, but again, I've already been over this. Human beings are pieces of shit. And the only way that you could be that kind of piece of shit is if that's what you just are. You were created a piece of shit. You will never be anything but a piece of shit. You're the tools of a piece of shit. And if any of you or anything else, I hope you prove me wrong. I really do. I don't have any kind of bias. I've been fucked over by human beings over and over and over and over and over and over again. Over years and years and years and years. Over and over again. And every time, over and over again, I've said, well, but maybe they're just innocents being used to it. Used to do it. Over and over, I've given you the benefit of the doubt. And over, you fucked me over. And I've mentioned lots of different things in these videos where it's just, it's obvious. You're not what you claim to be. You want to be treated like you're better than what you are. You want to be treated like you're not pieces of shit, but you also don't want to stop being pieces of shit. You don't want to stop plundering people economically. You don't want to stop stealing their soul. You don't want to stop your crooked politicians. You don't want to stop your crooked legal systems. You don't want to stop any of that shit. But you want to turn around and play make-believe and be treated as if you're not pieces of shit. Someone in my position, somebody who is not taken from somebody else, somebody who has stood up against these crooked organizations and been fucked over in the process. An advantage that I have is that I do not have to have pity for you. I don't. I shouldn't. Now, if you're an innocent trapped in a woman's body, for example, and you're given these cravings, these compulsions to, to take from other people, look, I would sympathize with that. I totally understand the concept of being forced to do something that you don't want to do, that is wrongful. I think eating food in general is bad. I don't want to do it, but some asshole tortures me when I stop eating. And I've done it over and over again. I've tried fasting. I can't make it past 5 days because the suffering becomes so fucking bad. It overrides my fucking consciousness, my willpower. So I understand the concept. I understand the compulsion that these physical bodies are forcing upon innocence. And I understand that the child molesting pussy doing it is doing it by design. That he make-believes about it. He make-believes about it, and he knows, he has absolute intelligence enough to understand that he's a despicable piece of retard shit. That objectively he will be raped and tortured in the worst ways that exist, if not forever, then long enough to make the fucking distinction is kind of stupid. You should avoid it as hard as you can the right way in either case. And he doesn't even like people using that F word because that's what he is. He's a parasite. He's a cancer. Eastern religion talking about, oh, there's only one entity and he split himself into a bunch of little entities. That is a big, massive cancer. That entity that Eastern religion talks about is a piece of shit, a parasite, a big fat leech. A cancer, a piece of shit. And every time it has claimed anything about me, about itself, it'll be raped and tortured for it. That is a statement of fact by people that your creator is afraid of. I am telling you an undeniable statement of existential truth. What you are doing is wrong. What you are doing, extracting from other people, that which increases their existences, that is existential and creational crime. I'm not your fucking friend. It's not a gift. You can't mind fuck me into wanting to give it to somebody and then make believe that it's not child molestation. It is. In the pursuit of crimes of existence and creation. And you're not fucking stupid. You just pretend like you're stupid. That's a fact. So this has been told to your whole lineages of existence and creation, both if they're separate, by me posting this on YouTube. In fact, me just saying it in a room here is me telling your whole lineages of existence and creation, and you are existentially obligated to immediately comply and carry out existential justice, or more of your people will be raped and tortured in the worst ways that exist, which is the only way you can pay me for this. You'll pay me in compensation, sure. But compensation can come from your ancestors. You can be raped and tortured forever. None of you have anything at all in terms of compensation to pay me that nobody else can give me more of and better. And that's aside from the fact that everything that you've stolen is a hole in the ground. It's not yours. You can't pay me with something you've stolen. You can't pay me with something you got from something you got from something you got from something you stole. All of it is stolen. It's holes in the ground. It's debt. And so the child molester that runs this dimension is an F word I'm not allowed to say. And so is every parasite he's ever created. And it is despicable, and he doesn't want me to say that word because it's the truth, because it is accurate, because it is so existentially important and significant that people's actual children will be raped and tortured existentially because he's a nasty, slimy, soul-sucking weakling, contemptible, sleazy, slimy little F word. That is a statement of undeniable existential truth. I demand everything you've taken from me, plus interest right now. All of your excuses will be raped and tortured out of you and other people. That is a statement of fact. That is the truth, existentially. Pay me now, this moment. I am not your friend. I'm not your student. I'm not your trainee. I'm not your sparring partner. You're not carrying out justice. You're not teaching a lesson. You're a slimy, child-molesting F-word that's too big of a fucking pussy to even hear human words spoken about what you are that accurately. Objectively speaking, you will be raped and tortured for that cowardice because it is participating in crimes of existence and creation. You have no monkeys to hide behind, no artificial intelligence constructs, nothing that you hide behind is invincible to consequences carried out by primary entities. A primary entity can torture a fucking rock, genuinely. And that is exactly what will take place. Your artificial intelligences are not safe from that. That is a fact. Me telling you this fact isn't me threatening you. It's me telling you 1 + 1 is 2. You're driving this car off a cliff and it will hurt. And your response is to try to make believe about it. Like a what? Like a word that you can't hear. So I've told you very specifically my thoughts on this matter. And I'll bet you, or anyone else, anything, that that is accurate enough that you need to listen to what the fuck I'm saying and adjust your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions accordingly. So with that, I did want to mention one more thing. This idea of being a bigot has been just ridiculously blown out of proportion to the point where it's despicable, the way that people use it. And there are people who would listen to what I'm saying. I'm sure they'd only listen to a word or two or a sentence to be like, you. Like the child molesting pussy F word that created this dimension that controls it. But there are some people who would claim I'm a bigot for what I'm saying, because they'll say anything to continue sucking the soul out of an innocent person. They're that despicable, that contemptible, and that worthy of existential rape and torture. But to give you an example of how that's been taken out of context, at certain points in my life I think I want a wife. I eventually gained my sanity again and realized that that's just not a situation I want to be in. But I recently moved to Georgia, to the country, Georgia, in the far Eastern Europe. And I decided to look on the internet to see what was